2, 1.
7 things you probably didn't know you need to know. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Smart 7.
Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, the 15th of December, and it's National Cat Herders Day. And a big happy birthday to Michelle Dockery, Camilla Luddington, Ralph Ineson, and Charlie Cox. There was a fresh tragedy in the English Channel early on Wednesday morning as a small boat with almost 50 migrants on board got into difficulties and had to send a distress call. RNLI lifeboats and the Coast Guard scrambled and rescued at least 30 people from the freezing cold waters, but at least 4 people have been confirmed dead. Home Secretary Suella Braverman was focused on stopping the crossings, particularly for those who'd come from so-called safe countries.
People do not need to seek asylum if they are already in a safe country. It is vital, literally vital, that we end the illegal crossings in the Channel.
But with mounting backlogs for asylum claims and despite Rishi Sunak's new plan to tackle the ongoing wave of migration from Albania, Labour MP Clive Lewis says the government's just not doing enough to help those who are seeking asylum.
There is a necessity for this government to stop with the rhetoric, stop with the division, and actually deal with this properly, and that is to open up safe and legal routes. And if you don't do that, then there will be more deaths. Former Director General of the Border Force, Tony Smith, says when the distress call comes, they only have one thing on their mind.
The top priority, not just for the Border Force, but for all of the associated agencies, will be to save lives at sea.
There was some good news for UK households on Wednesday as inflation dropped slightly from 11.1% down to 10.7%. That's the fastest drop in 16 months. But that drop may not be enough to prevent the Bank of England's Monetary Committee from implementing another interest rate rise, most likely at least 0.5%. Treasury Committee Chairwoman Harriet Baldwin says that inflation remains a huge problem for the UK economy.
It's the number one economic problem for this country at the moment. Inflation is far too high. I think what policymakers will be worried about now is making sure it doesn't feed into a wage price spiral, and that's the worst thing because then it becomes even harder to control.
With waves of strikes between now and Christmas, the government continues to refuse to engage in pay talks, and Labour's Angela Eagle wanted a word at Prime Minister's question time about Rishi's Christmas list.
5 education secretaries, 4 chancellors, 3 prime ministers, 2 leadership coups, and Mr. Speaker, the Partridges had to sell the pear tree to pay the gas. Mr. Speaker, isn't it the case that after a year of Tory chaos, the best Christmas present the Prime Minister could give to the British people is a general election?
Thursday sees up to 100,000 nurses walk out on strike across 53 NHS organisations in England. They're due to strike again next Tuesday, and Health Secretary Steve Barclay's refusing to engage in constructive pay talks. They'll join Royal Mail workers who've been involved in an increasingly bitter dispute that will continue up to Christmas and, of course, the ongoing wave of rail strikes. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer was putting pressure on Rishi Sunak in the House of Commons as the government continues to ignore the wave of strikes.
After 12 years of Tory failure, winter has arrived for our public services. And we've got a Prime Minister who has curled up in a ball and gone into hibernation. What is the point of him, and what is the point of the government he's supposed to be leading?
Rishi and the Tories seem to think that the public will blame Labour for the strikes, but there's not much sign the public at large believe that, with polls largely supporting striking workers. Labour's Shadow Attorney General Emily Thornberry was happy to outline how Labour would handle the disputes.
We would be negotiating and we would be trying to find a solution because a strike is a failure. A strike is a failure on both sides. Both sides need to compromise, and you need people to sit around a table and work out what the compromise is.
Russia launched another wave of drone attacks on Kyiv on Wednesday, with Ukrainian forces claiming to have shot down 13 of the Iranian-made Shahed weapons. It was the first attack on the capital in weeks, and the attacks damaged at least 5 buildings. Meanwhile, 90 Ukrainian judges are undergoing training provided by the UK to allow war crime trials for the Russian soldiers to begin. Ukrainian MP Andrei Ozadchuk said it's time the perpetrators of these acts were brought to justice.
Big part of Ukrainian victory is not just defeating Russians on Ukrainian soil, but bringing into accountability everyone who committed war crimes in Ukraine.
Still to come on the Smart 7, Moroccan heartbreak and Sir Elton John's wandering down memory lane. Right after this. Welcome back. 3,
Wednesday night saw the second semi-final of the World Cup 2022. Defending champions France took on Morocco, the first African side to reach this stage of the competition. The prize, a place in Sunday's final against Argentina. And that prize went to France. Morocco put on a battling performance but just couldn't get the goals they needed, and the game finished 2-0 to France. French captain and goalkeeper Hugo Lloris was already looking forward to Sunday's final.
We need all our strength, all our energy. And we need to enjoy the moment because it's already a big success, but the last step is always the most difficult.
It's been a big week for the White Lotus. The finale of Series 2 has been setting social media on fire all week, and it's done well with Golden Globe nominations, picking up 4, including Best Series, and 3 acting nominations for Jennifer Coolidge, F. Murray Abraham and Aubrey Plaza. Fans, however, are outraged that Megan Fahey was skipped over for a nomination. Her co-star Aubrey was talking her up on the Seth Meyers show, and she'd also had to do a bit of correcting about a story Megan told on the show about getting lost in Sicily.
We were on mushrooms. So she told the story, and it was like Aubrey was on the road and all these Italian guys are on motorcycles, and Aubrey was like, "Don't look at me," and all this stuff. I was tripping. It was terrifying. We were lost on a highway, and there were Italian men on going vroom, vroom, like coming at me. I was like, I thought they were taking me to the dark side.
Abbey Road Studios are one of London's most famous landmarks, mainly because of the iconic zebra crossing outside made famous by the Beatles. Now Paul McCartney's daughter Mary has directed a new documentary about the studio called If These Walls Could Sing. She spoke to a host of legends who've recorded there, including her dad, Liam Gallagher, and Mr. Showbiz, Sir Elton John. Elton and songwriter Bernie Taupin were pretty overawed the first time they bumped into Sir Paul at the studio.
And your dad came in the door and said hello to the Baronite, and it's the first time I'd ever seen anyone that famous in my life. And I kind of froze, and Bernie did too. And the Baronites asked Paul to play Hey Jude on the piano, and he did, and Bernie and I have never forgotten it. It's like, oh my God, we saw Paul play Hey Jude at the time the record came out.
This has been The Smart 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Have a great day.
Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.